if you're coding with LLMs, there's a very high likelihood that you're just skimming over the code that it generates and not kind of truly understand what everything does or means. And in a normal kind of human-driven process, this would be weeded out by PRs, right? If you wrote a bug, hopefully whoever reviews your PR would catch that bug and notify you of it so that you have an opportunity to fix it before it goes into the main branch. A lot of projects that I've been working on are both solo projects and projects written by LLMs for the most part. And so I have had a couple instances where the LLM generated something that I didn't ask it to, or it generated certain vulnerabilities, or it just forgot to do things. And there are a wide variety of integrations and agents such as CodeRabbit and Copilot and a million others. But those are all either pretty enterprise focused or pretty expensive monthly charges. And I thought, hey, there has to be a simpler way to do this. And so after a couple of minutes of Googling, I found out that it's pretty easy to add Codex into a GitHub Actions workflow that you can kind of let it review your PR. And so that's what you're kind of looking at it here. I generated this hotel website that you can see here. It's not very impressive. It's not meant to be. And I asked Codex in this PR to review it. And as you can see, it came up with several levels of vulnerabilities or severities, as well as some optional improvements. But here, for example, guest count not enforced server side. That's a pretty big issue. Server accepts past check-in dates. That's a pretty big vulnerability as well. Committed database file. You would not want this, right? This is accidental. But if you look at the 3,600 line changes, I wouldn't be able to tell, right? You can read every line of this, and in a lot of cases, you wouldn't realize that's what's going on. I want to show you how this works. It's fairly easy, and then I'll also show you a demo at the end. Here we have Cursor, and this is the actual workflow. In this case, it's the only workflow. Usually you would have tests and other integration tests running to make sure that the code actually works. In this case, we didn't do that. But the workflow itself is pretty simple. So it gets triggered by a pull request, but we don't want this to run on every pull request because in a lot of cases, if I make a very trivial pull request, I don't want to wait for it to review it. I don't want to spend money on it reviewing a PR that I know is good. So we have a condition here that just waits for the Codex review label to be applied, and I'll show you how to add that later. The first step here is it just pulls down the Git repository and it checks out the PR's merge commit so that it kind of has the ability to do a diff between that and the main branch. The second step is already running the Codex agent. We give it the Open API, the OpenAI API key, and then we basically give it a prompt. We say, okay, this is PR so-and-so, review only the changes introduced by this PR. We do that because otherwise it would just review the whole code base and it would find things that might be important, but it would be out of scope for this PR and it would just be very expensive if it had to go through the whole large code base all at once. We also tell it like, hey, run a diff. You have the ability to do this because it can interact with Bash. Suggest any improvements, potential bugs or issues. Be concise and specific in your feedback. Write the PR in Markdown. And so that's that basically. It'll just go to town and it'll review your PR. And then the last step is we take the output of that specific review step and we post that as a comment. As you can see, that's fairly simple, right? So there's not a lot of logic going on back and forth. There's also, because it's so simple, there's also no commit suggestions, or it doesn't actually approve your PR, which I think Copilot has the commit suggestions, which is fairly handy. It'll comment on specific bits of code. This doesn't do that, but it's considerably cheaper. For example, this whole PR review, which brought to light some pretty egregious bugs here, only cost me about 11 cents. And you might think, that's kind of a lot. I would disagree. If you were to pay a human to do this, it would probably take them 5 hours and it would cost you, $500. So 11 cents is not bad. Now that we've gone over how it works, let me show you a quick little demo. So I've asked Cursor here to add a feature that allows you to filter hotels by whether or not they have a pool. Again, completely irrelevant for the point of the video, but it's a feature that has a significant amount of lines that would be a relevant like individual PR. I've already committed this, so we just need to do git push. Oh, I need to set my upstream here. We'll do git push, and then we will create a PR. And so this PR has how many lines? 117 additions and 17 deletions. So not bad. It has some changes to the database, has some changes to the front end and the back end. We'll create a PR. Both title and description are irrelevant here, and we can create this pull request. And as you'll see, it's not going to do anything because we didn't add that label yet. We can then go in here and click on the Codex review label. You can also add a label here, and we can click on that, and then it should start running the review process through Codex any minute now, which it is doing. And so depending on how big your PR is, this might take a little bit longer. One thing we do need to make sure though is that we have the secret set, the OpenAI API key secret right here with your OpenAI API key that you can get from here. This is not a very big PR, so I don't expect this to take very long. But we can wait and I can cut the video. So it looks like the actual review process is done. Now it's posting the feedback, so we should see that pop up here any second, and there we go. So it's come back with a couple of findings here. Checkbox state can be wrong when using non-one truthy values. It's telling me where that file is, as well as a suggestion, and here, very similar, it's giving me a little bit of context, what file it's in, and a suggestion. Also here, a nice to have, which is great. Obviously, I don't know what any of this means because I didn't write this code, nor deeply instruct the LLM on how to do specific stuff, but I could potentially feed this feedback back into the LLM and have it regenerate or fix all this stuff, and then recommit this back into this branch, and then ask for another review, and hopefully those should be fixed. So looking back at our OpenAI dashboard here, we can see that our total for today is 18 cents, which means that the last PR, this one, was just 7 cents. I think that's a pretty good deal, especially for how simple and how quick it is. And that's kind of all there is to it. It's a pretty simple and cheap way to get reviews on your PR. The repo will be in the description. Let me know what you think. My name is Mathis, and I'll see you next time.